this whole process gets to be you caring for yourself in whatever way that manifests for you. It's totally okay to find your own path. It doesn't have to look like everyone else's. In fact, it's best if it doesn't, because yes, at times it feels safe to follow everyone else, but when you're following everyone else, you might be suppressing your own voice, your own needs, and your light, like your vision of what the world needs. Trying to be too perfect in the process, and that just felt like it sucked the life out of me. I want what I'm doing to feel really, really good, because if you enjoy it, that's going to be what you adhere to, and that is what is optimal. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. It's lovely having you here today. Actually, today while you are watching this live, I am currently away on vacation, enjoying some time with family, but I'm so happy I was able to record this earlier this week and have it live for you guys today. Today we get to chat about my off season so far. For those who have been following me for a while, you know that I did a bodybuilding style program in a cut earlier this year, and I have now been in my off season for about a month and a half. So I will talk to you all about how my nutrition and my training, and my recovery and work-life balance and all that has been playing out, which I'm really happy with. And I also want to talk about how I've gotten it wrong in the past in other off seasons, and why I got it wrong and how I have corrected it in this off season. So if you are new here, hello, my name is Courtney Bishop. I am a high performance coach. I have a background as a trauma-informed yoga instructor, as well as a certified strength and conditioning specialist. And my athletic background is as a former competitive powerlifter. Earlier this year, I was kind of at a fork in the road in my journey, if you will, debating if I wanted to, what next step I wanted to take. I knew I wanted to elevate my fitness to the next level, and I wasn't sure if that meant kind of going back into the competitive realm of powerlifting, or if I wanted to venture into the world of bodybuilding. And as I already have kind of alluded to, I decided to go into the world of bodybuilding. It's something that's always really intrigued me, and I love the artistic side of that. So if you missed our former series, Crafting a Vibrant Vessel, I will link it up here. And this is kind of where I talk about the whole decision that led to getting into bodybuilding, getting into that cut that I mentioned. So you can either just watch the first video and understand kind of my game plan of how I was going to go about that whole process, or you can watch the entire series if you'd like and see me actually go through that process, which is really, really fun. I'm super excited because today's topic, an update on my off season, was requested by you guys. I love when you guys make requests because it just helps me with direction for content, obviously. And it's helpful for me to reflect and kind of see where I've gotten it wrong in the past and be able to share the wisdom that has come from that to help you in finding your own way on your path. Actually, in episode 16 of Crafting a Vibrant Vessel, I kind of went through the post-cut game plan. So I named it The Next Chapter. Again, I will link it over here if that's of interest to you. Kind of talking about what I was planning for this next chapter as far as my nutrition and my training and just work-life balance. So let's chat about now how it's actually been going. Switching gears, because over here I'm going to throw some training footage up on the screen while we discuss my training. I have stayed around 4 days per week in the gym, and this has just helped me intertwine creative days of work with my fitness and health goals. I've actually been finding some days I will really be like in my flow doing projects at home, and I don't want to get up in the middle of that and, like interrupt that process, which is a great thing. But I have been noticing from that, sometimes my knees will start to feel achy if I'm sitting too long, and especially if I'm like cross-legged too long, that will cut off blood flow actually. So my knees have been feeling a little bit not so great. Normally, I'm pretty good about getting up and going for walks at least once or maybe even twice a day. This off season, I'm really having to make sure that I honor my body and listen to it. And even if I feel like I'm in a good, creative flow mentally, to listen to those signs from my body to get up, move, help with circulation. Because what's happening is when my knees feel a little bit naggy from being too sedentary, then when I do go to the gym, especially if I don't warm up properly, then my knees are really, speaking loudly to me, like, we don't feel so good. So that's something I've been noticing this last week, and a change that I am now making this week and moving forward is to make sure that I am more active throughout the day, and that when I do go to the gym, I'm getting a proper warm-up so that the rest of my training goes better, and I'm setting myself up to have a good off season. 4 days of training per week, about an hour to an hour and a half sessions, so it's not taking up a ton of my time. And this is something I was actually talking with a friend about last week at the gym, is I feel like the focus in my lifts has actually decreased. There's a couple reasons for this I'm pinpointing. One is because I notice when I'm in a cut, I feel more adrenaline and excitement because I'm seeing, the scale change week to week. I'm seeing physical changes in the mirror. It's exciting to reveal what you've been working towards for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Whereas when you go the other direction and you're increasing your calories and you're putting on strength and size, it's still exciting to see those numbers go up in the gym, to feel stronger, to feel more energized and maybe capable and competent in everyday life. But personally, and maybe this is something I get to work through still, I like being able to reveal the package of all the hard work. And so part of my focus not being as mentally sharp in the gym, I think, is that. I think number 2, I've been doing the same movements in my training program for the most part for the last 6 to 8 months. I've changed some over the last 8 weeks, but I'm actually going to start a new block of training next week, change up a lot of movement patterns, and that's going to help me just kind of increase that excitement around training and give some movement patterns and body parts a little bit of a break and just get more stimulus out of my training. It's like if you do the same movement patterns for too long, they kind of become an autopilot and you're not getting as much juice out of them because the stimulus isn't as new. New movement patterns, more movement throughout the day, and better warm-ups are all going to contribute to feeling a little bit sharper in my training mentally. Another interesting trend or pattern I'm noticing in my training is that being in this off season, I don't have to be as stringent with tracking everything in my diet as I once was during the cut. And because of that, I'm, following a more intuitive rhythm just in life. And that's also revealing itself in my training. Whereas during the cut, I would, go to the gym mostly at the same time every day, eat mostly at the same time, pre-training, post-training, in the evening. And it was just a pretty regimented schedule, which makes sense because that was the lifestyle. But now I'm noticing that I'm flowing and I'm much more adaptable. Like I was saying earlier, if I'm in a creative project for work, I'm like, that's okay. I'll go to the gym this evening. It's okay. And kind of just honoring that intuitive rhythm of what feels right for me in this phase. This has been a thread that has been this entire year, and it's just continuing in my training in this off season, but really allowing myself to go slow in my training and feel the movement, which sometimes looks like, a long eccentric. So really letting myself hang out in those end ranges of motion and get like a full stretch of the muscle belly, which I think allows for a tighter contraction, as well as, doing pauses and just tempo work for more time under tension, not rushing the movement, but like kind of squeezing as much juice out of each rep. And that has felt so good for me over this last year. And I think, I've talked about this before, but it's so context dependent. In the past, when I was competing in powerlifting, Courtney was so focused on like getting the movements done to try and get to the end goal. Whereas now it's like so in the process and really enjoying and feeling each rep and like savoring the work. And so that's just been a whole change, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later in this video. For nutrition, I pretty much have adhered to the plan of what I wanted to do in the off season, which was to continue to track and slowly come out of the deficit by increasing calories, like 100 calories for a couple weeks, and then bump it up another 100 calories, hang out there for a couple weeks, bump it up another 100 calories, hang out for a couple weeks. So a very gradual transition back to a calorie goal where I feel I am able to push myself in my training at the intensity that I desire. I am recovering, so I'm eating enough to recover well, and I'm getting good sleep. My sleep isn't being disrupted because of feeling too sore and not, recovering well, getting enough food in me. And I'm also not feeling like stressed mentally because I'm not getting enough food. So I'm basically at that calorie goal now. And my weight is up about 5 pounds from where I was at the end of my cut. And that's good. I don't think in my off season I need to gain a ton of weight. I know I can and I know I am putting muscle on at this current calorie goal. And as I've chatted with you guys before, as I continue increasing the intensity, the further I get away from this deficit, I think my food will naturally increase. But I do have kind of a target in mind that I don't want to go beyond. So I'm not just going to eat like crazy and just keep pushing my training harder and harder. I don't want to see the scale necessarily go above 148 in this off season, because in this next stretch of a cut, when I am ready to do that, I don't want to have to make a huge jump to get to a stage weight, which for me, and talking with my coach, would be around potentially 116 to 123, which is, that's a little ways. So I don't want that to be like such a huge daunting journey, which of course I'd give myself plenty of time to go through, but I want to make sure I'm, still making really good use of this off season without making that next chapter too overwhelming. This off season has been nice because I've been mostly tracking over this last month and a half, but I'm really getting to a point where I am having more intuitive eating days, and I'm not being so like obsessive and heady about the process. I have a pretty good relationship with my body where I know when I've eaten enough based on my activity levels for the day, and For me, for the most part, I like to track here and there in an off season, mainly because if I don't, I have a pattern of under eating my fat intake, which is obviously important for hormonal health and, many other reasons. But in this off season, I am allowing myself to get to a point where, and I have gotten to this point. I can go out to dinner with friends and family and my partner, and we can just enjoy life, and I'm not so obsessed over weighing things on a food scale, because my goal isn't to be the next Miss Olympia or anything like super high level like that. So I don't need to be super duper stringent. I have other life goals and priorities, like being able to go travel and just feel good in everyday life and just be functionally, fit and able to keep up with family and friends and all of that. I'm about 500 calories up from where I ended my cut, which was around the 1300 calorie mark. And my training, I'm getting stronger week to week in my training. My technique is feeling more controlled, less straining. And then obviously I bumped the weight up, and I'm sleeping well. I'm recovering pretty well for the most part. When I notice like that soreness kind of creeping in, I know it's time to kind of bump those calories up. As far as recovery, sleep, stress, work-life balance, I kind of bucket all of those into one. I have actually noticed not doing a YouTube video every week has been really good for me, because I do feel more balanced. When I was doing weekly videos, it was a little bit heady of a process, planning and trying to figure out what is that video going to be every week, which, there's lessons in that for me for the next time I do a process where I'm doing weekly content for you guys. And due to not doing a weekly video, I do feel like these videos in this series, I've been able to feel more relaxed, just more clean, not so sloppy and hurried in my energy that, I share with you guys, which feels really good. Stress is definitely lower, and that also leads to work-life balance. It's a lot to be like a fitness influencer, and that's why it doesn't feel genuine or good to me to just put myself in that box. I feel like teaching fitness and being passionate about fitness feels really good for me, but I need that balance of also doing life coaching, because it feels balanced for me. And that's something I highly prioritize and value. It's just like when you are in a cut for like a bodybuilding competition, all your eggs kind of go into one basket, especially if you are someone who is like a fitness influencer, or like that's your job, right? Because then you are in the gym doing the work. You're also sharing with others about the work. You're tracking all your food, you're tracking everything in the gym. You have clients that are going through that same process, and then you're doing that for your work. And for some people, they thrive on that. But for me, that does not feel truly aligned to who I am. I need that balance of, being in the gym and coaching some people in the gym and doing online coaching with some clients, but then also being able to do life coaching. And so in this series, Building Steady Strength, I am so grateful that many of you guys who follow me are into fitness and are also coaches yourself, but you've been requesting me to do videos that are on topics that really light me up, to help you in your coaching practice too. So we've been able to talk about creating soulful offers in your business, what I would do differently starting over as a high performance coach, and even things like routines to care for yourself, because that's really what this all comes down to, is just creating a lifestyle, a business, a body that all feels really good, like you're taking care of you. Like this whole process gets to be you caring for yourself in whatever way that manifests for you. Maybe the experiences I just explained of being that fitness coach and living that whole, being all in on that lifestyle is it for you. But I've been there in the past, and I know that's not sustainable for me. So that leads me into where I've gotten my journey with an off season wrong in the past, and why, and how I've corrected it in this off season. The biggest thing that stands out to me, and that's part of the reason why I chose Alberto Nunez as a coach as well as 3DMJ, is because they really get the sustainability piece, and that again is a huge value to me. I want what I'm doing to feel really, really good, because if you enjoy it, that's going to be what you adhere to, and that is what is optimal. My training, my work and business, my lifestyle, it all needs to feel sustainable. It all needs to feel exciting and like I look forward to it, because that's when I will actually show up to do the work. In the past, in off seasons, I've been so heady about the process, like being too meticulous about trying to figure out the right movements, the right nutrition and macro breakdown and calories, and too up in my head about it. Whereas, because of that, now I can be very intuitive and in my body making those decisions. That is definitely where I got it wrong, trying to be too perfect in the process, and that just felt like it sucked the life out of me. Now I allow more life, if you will, in my process, just more balance, having time to go do the things that I really love to do, that energize me, and that affords me to really show up and be present and grateful and like in my aliveness and grounded in my process, rather than like trying to figure it all out and kind of being like bitter and frustrated in the process of like, I'm not there yet. Like gripping, that white knuckling feeling of like rushing to a destination and not being fulfilled in the process, not letting life in. Like life is so beautiful and it gets to delight you, and I definitely, like, that's where I got it wrong in the past, was feeling like I had to like grunt and grind and like buckle down and get through it. It's like, no, like you get to be open and joyful, and it gets to fulfill you. Like that's what we're here for. The same motto that I had for the last series, I said many times that the goal was to feel fresh and free and in control in my process. And that same kind of effect has been true in this off season. But the language, the verbiage that's really like speaking to me in this phase of life is to sink deeper into my peace, my pace, my pleasure, and my joy, and really cutting the noise of this is going to sound kind of crazy, but like what everyone else is doing in the fitness space, and just trusting the path that's right for me, really relying on my intuition and knowing that that's taking me exactly where I need to go, because it feels so right, it feels so good. And I just want to be a permission slip for any of you out there, whether you are getting into fitness and you are new, or you've been on your journey for a while, Or maybe, you're a coach and you're just like kind of feeling this need to pivot your direction too. Like, it's totally okay to find your own system, your own path, and it doesn't have to look like everyone else's. In fact, it's best if it doesn't, because yes, at times it feels safe to follow everyone else, but when you're following everyone else, you're kind of, not all the time, but you might be suppressing your own voice, your own needs, and your light, like your vision of what the world needs. I'm really happy in this off season for being able to kind of mute and turn down all of that and just follow my path, because it's so rewarding, it's so beautiful, because it's mine. And I guess that leads me to the last point, which is something that actually my coach, Alberto Nunez, posted about the other day. And I was like, bro, I am right there with you. Like, this is resonating so hard, because he said, in an off season, you're not meant to be at 100%. Like what I was talking about at the start of the video, feeling like I wasn't, as mentally sharp and like as focused in my training. And that's okay, because when you are in that period of, preparing for your cut, going through the cut to get on stage, that's like the same thing as like powerlifting or strongman, if you will. When you are in prep for your competition, it's like, okay, this is like everything that we've been working towards is like becoming manifest. You're bringing out your highest potential. And so in that off season, your 80%, you don't feel as sharp, you don't feel as like I'm, about to be at my best package ever. That feeling isn't quite there. And so when you are operating in that off season and it feels like you're kind of going at 80%, know that, like I said, that is your 100%. And I actually talked about this in Crafting a Vibrant Vessel. It's called knowing when to switch gears. And so I like to think of the off season like, it's not that I'm not putting effort in and not trying, but we're allowing more white space, we're allowing more life balance to be present and not so like tunnel vision. Well, some people call it prep goggles in bodybuilding, so that when it's time to kind of turn the dial back up in that prep, and that could be a whole nother topic about like how much we're turning the dial up and how long the prep is and things like that, but just allowing yourself to make sure you're enjoying it, that it is challenging you, but without overwhelming you, so that it is sustainable, because that's what we're here for. It gets to feel really good. You get to be in your peace and your pleasure and your joy every day. That doesn't mean not challenging yourself, because challenging yourself can feel really peaceful and pleasurable, because you feel yourself growing stronger and getting better. So don't get that twisted either. That is where I'm at in this off season. That's where I'm at with my training, my nutrition, recovery, all of those things, work-life balance, feeling really good. So I hope this has been supportive and helpful for you. I would love to know, those of you watching, where are you at in your fitness journey? Are you just getting into it? Have you been on your journey for a while? What are the lessons you are taking away from today's episode? Don't forget, if you are interested in coaching, I have my one-on-one remote coaching program called FLOURISH that I would love to support you with. I also have in-person training sessions available, and then I also have our group coaching program for women called SOLIDITY, which will be starting up here at the end of September. I have the links for all of those in the description box below, so check them out if you are interested in working with me. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future episodes in this series. Drop a comment below, let me know where you're tuning in from, and I will see you guys again in a couple weeks. Deuces.